Hi, Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. So please do subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and you can go to my website ianroberts.com and click on the button there. There's a video that you'll get on Mastering Composition, as well as receiving this video every Tuesday in your inbox. And I never share it with anyone, sell it with anyone. There's just one email once a week, 6 a.m. Pacific time. So this week we're going to talk about detail. And right from the beginning, that photograph, that sort of rat's nest of information and too much detail, we're going to be doing it, as you've seen, in terms of structure, right? And so what happens, in fact, is detail is just used to enhance pretty much the edges of the main shapes we've already established and their structure. And it just enhances the structure. And the most important thing is not to sort of create these shapes and then start putting in details that starts to actually break the shape up and we can't see it so clearly anymore. So in the end, it really just helps orchestrate the very things we're doing at the end with detail, helps orchestrate what we were looking at the very beginning with structure. Detail is really just icing on the cake. It's not the structure and the foundation of what is making it work. Now, next week, I want to talk about abstraction because there's a lot of interplay between the idea of abstraction and simplification. So we're going to look at that next week. So there were two questions that came out of last week's video. One was the idea of squinting. Now, you've probably heard about the idea of squinting, but the point is, I don't squint with a photograph. Outdoors, when I'm doing a landscape, I squint because, my God, there's so much information, right? You're having to simplify it, and squinting just kind of puts the shapes and simplifies it down. But in a photograph, first off, the photographic ability, or the ability of the camera shrinks what the eye can see, so it's already simplified it. It's already simplified and abstracted under 2 dimensions. So I'm just looking at the image as it is. I don't find the need to squint at a photograph. And the other thing, someone was asking me how long it takes between the layers of paint to dry. And I'd say 2-3 days, and often on the underpainting, I'll use a quick dry white, which Gamblin and Winsor & Newton both make one that are perfectly good. So the other thing is people often say, I make painting look so easy. And you have to understand that I've edited it out. I mean, you get a 45-minute video and I edit it down so you're seeing a minute or two. So it's pretty carefully curated. One time I should just do one whole week, 6 minutes of me muddling around, pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling the paint to see that it isn't quite as quick and simple as I make it look. So let's get to it, and we're going to look at how detail, in fact, orchestrates and enhances the original structure. So I left last week with the idea that I'd put in this shadow. And the reason is because I became more and more interested in the sunlight hitting up here, and this was in shadow. And for that to be in shadow, it had to be cast from somewhere. So it's coming from someplace and casting a shadow here, and then the light is coming up here. The other thing I'm going to have to look at is how hard that edge is. I'm going to have to soften that. But most of what I'm going to be doing is looking at the edges between the light and the dark, between the light and the dark, the light and the dark, and the major shapes that we talked about last week. And most of the detail is going to occur along the edges of those main shapes. So most of what I'm doing here is actually on the edge. There's a fair amount of paint on there, and you can just see I'm taking this rather ragged looking brush and I'm just placing, rather than having a rat's nest of information, they're all vertical lines that are starting to sort of approximate this idea of light hitting branches and coming through the shadows that are beneath them, so and that's working again on the line of the tree line that I erased when I put the shadow in there at the end of last week. And here I'm doing 3 things to soften that edge. I'm not just sort of smushing it away. I'm putting some reeds or something in the front. I'm putting some shadow in behind it, and then I'll put some light in front of that. So the light is, it comes up and sort of rises up and catches the light against the reeds and then falls away. So that edge has been softened now because of those three qualities. And you see, I mean, I'm actually muddling around there quite a bit in order to get those three qualities in there. I mean, you see, I'm just working and working and working, but it's softening the edge, but it's really just working with that one thing. And now I'm working of just getting a few, again, vertical highlights in there, details, we could say, of how the light is hitting that rat's nest of stuff, but just simplifying it right down. Then I take the palette knife to scrape the bottom to integrate it into the hole, but you can see it's all detail, mainly around the edges, and it's all just about the structure we've been using all along. So I'm close to being finished, but I want you to notice the amount of pull that edge has, in conjunction, of course, with all these motions going like this. And that wasn't something that was happening on the small sketch. And so what I'm going to do is something up here to counterbalance it. So here you can see that I'm dragging the paint. The paint underneath is dry, and I'm just trying to get, and it needs to be sort of exact because the light, this is where I'm sort of getting the sense of the light coming in and hitting it. And so I'm just dragging it along there. I want to get some trunks in, just a little bit of sort of, again, it's not detail, it's just the sense of light hitting it. I'm sort of pulling back some of the little spots that got too bright just by scraping it off with the palette knife, softening that edge just a little bit more, and then down that sort of halo of dark. I'm just trying to break it up a little bit, just so that final sense of the way the light is hitting it. So the original structure we'd looked at was something like this, if you remember. But what happened is you can see that by having this edge here holding so much attention, I was forced to do something up here to counterbalance it. So now we get a structure that is doing something more like this. And you can see how much more of the picture plane that is engaging us with, right? So we're expanding the engagement with the larger painting. It isn't just taken in with one glance like a 9x12, but the shifts and the changes that have happened are resting on the original structure and are just enhancing it. So I hope you found that helpful, as always. Next week we're going to talk about abstraction, simplification, and the relationship to abstraction. And so I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday, and bye for now.